Today, I want to talk to you about why you should give up your dreams and let go of your goals. So, what do I mean when I say dreams and goals? I'm talking, yes, about career dreams and career goals, but I'm also talking about goals of who you want to be as a person, what you want to accomplish in your lifetime, dreams of what family looks like for you, and the expectations that you've kind of just autopiloted on along the way. I think about the patterns and the survival strategies and coping mechanisms that we call our identity, but really they are not. And we use them to inform what we think we should be, who we think we should be, where we think we should be going, what we should be doing with our lives. And honestly, most of them are probably not working for you anymore if you're like me. I grew up as the youngest child of 3 children. My brother is 7 years older than me, and my sister is 10 years older than me. So a pretty significant age gap between us. As a result, my childhood looked not only like that of a younger sibling, but also like that as an only child. When I was in elementary and middle school, my siblings were in late high school and college. I spent a lot of my time observing, trying to catch up, realizing that the family expectations and the family roles and rules have already been established by the time that I came along. And so trying to figure out what my place was within it was something that I did a lot of reflecting on as a kid. I took a lot of stock and mental notes, pinpointing what it was that got me praise and validation, what my parents, what society deemed as appropriate behavior, and I ran with it. So that looked like perfectionism for me, in terms of like getting straight A's and being in all the extracurricular activities and rarely saying no to an opportunity, and going above and beyond as much as possible to prove myself a dependable person. That also looked like being the mom friend in my friend groups, being someone with high emotional intelligence and empathy, and being able to carry and give advice for a lot of people's problems that they were dealing with or emotions that they didn't know how to cope with. Not just for my peers, but for my family, being that person who could keep secrets and really try to give you healthy ways to move through problems at a very young age. And I just assumed that this was my lot in life, that these were 2 pieces of my identity, my perfectionism and striving for more, and, emotional burden carrier. I really kind of settled into that role in my life, because what I wanted was to feel accepted and to feel validated and to feel a member of this family or this society or this friend group. I used the external judgment of what people wanted as a way to identify my identity. And I think a lot of this caused me to make big decisions at a very young age and assume that then there was no room for change. I think about my childhood and the 90s, and a lot of what we were seeing at that time was that you dream big and you reach for the stars and you pull yourself up by the bootstraps to reach your goals and, never give up. And this idea that giving up or not reaching a goal or having a change of heart that society couldn't justify externally meant that you were a failure. Not that you were a complex human being, but that you were bad and you were failing. So Bump forward from my childhood to 12 years old. At 12, my brother was 19, my sister was 21, 22, so both of them obviously young adults, figuring out what they wanted to do with their life, where their careers were headed. And I watched and observed my parents having these conversations with them, and the pride and validation that they had for my siblings and what they were choosing to do with their lives, that I assumed that that's just what we're doing in the family. So by 12, I knew I wanted to do something that made me happy, and I was thinking about it like, okay, cool, we're all picking careers now. I guess I'm going to choose theater. I love theater, so one day I'm going to be an actor and a theater teacher and maybe run my own theater company. Like, granted, this wasn't an impulsive decision. Like, this was based on lots of curating of my experiences, realizing what I like doing, and, what I'm good at, all of this. But also, like, to be 12 years old and making decisions about your career. Like, because that's the thing. It wasn't like, I want to be this when I grow up. For me, it was like, no, this is the career path I am selecting for myself. Lock it in. 12. Being an ambitious child, like, it got me praise, and it people were impressed that I already knew what I wanted to do when I grew up, and that I had taken steps to really evaluate this. And so with that praise, with how good theater made me feel, with the validation from the grown-ups in my life, I sprinted towards that goal. I spent all of middle school and high school and college being the theater kid, in addition to being the perfectionist and the straight-A student and the mom friend. All of these additional pieces now adding on to my identity and who I thought I should be. And then along came my mid-20s. So in my mid-20s, I moved across country after college and was surrounded by new people, new faces who didn't know me, and these identity pieces that I had set up around me. This identity house, so to speak, that I had built. The House of Corinne, with all of its various rooms, like the career room, and the family room, and the relationship room, and the, hobby room. Like, the House of Corinne was fully built. Stick with me on this metaphor, because I think it will make sense eventually. So people who I had never met before were suddenly, seeing a lot of the patterns that I had developed, such as, like, smiling constantly. I was a constant smiler. Like, this is my shield. This is my perfection mechanism. This is how you know that I'm kind and nice and approachable and you want to be around me because of this. And I got called out by a mentor being like, hey, you're always smiling. What's that about? It's like genuine curiosity, which took me aback. And honestly, I was like, I don't know. A couple more interactions go by where suddenly I'm thinking like, why do I want to be an actor? Why do I feel this need to say yes to everything? So starting to have all of these like deeper realizations that obviously weren't coming up in my life when I was living with the same group of people that I've known since existence, and being in the same friend circle since existence. And my beliefs and my identity were being questioned in a healthy way, where I was able to start looking at myself from a third-party perspective, and not in a dissociative way, but like in a like actual examining the life that I had created for myself thus far and why it was the way it was. And I realized how much externalizing I had done with my identity, how much comparison and peer expectation and societal like benchmarks I was trying to live up to, and I wasn't happy. And I started, thinking that maybe the house needed to burn down. The House of Corinne needed to burn down. And in the midst of burning the house down, I can't stress enough how it wasn't the foundation's problem that I didn't like the house, like the foundation was always going to be what it's going to be. I feel like we all get a litany of lessons and values passed down to us from society and from our families and the people in our immediate circles as kids, and that's always going to be the case. And that's not the problematic part. Yes, some of those lessons can be problematic. Yes, some of those values can be problematic. But when I was able to actually examine the foundation, I was also then able to see, like, cool, so that's always going to be there. How do I now build with integrity and consciousness the life that I want to live, the legacy that I want to be proud of at the end of my lifetime? And now I'm 29 years old, and I'm finally starting to rebuild the house that I want. And it is so uncomfortable, and a lot of debris is being kicked up from the ashes that have been burned down, like old feelings that hadn't been dealt with, and traumas that hadn't been dealt with, and emotions and memories and patterns that I had learned as coping mechanisms. All of that is very much here. And it's confusing and difficult to explain to family why I burned the house down. Like, to them, they saw the house and they're like, oh, that's a beautiful house you've got there. And I burned it down, and they don't know why. So they're nervous and they're uncomfortable and they don't know how to react to me. These people thought that the house looked great, but they weren't the ones living in it, right? Like, they had no idea how uncomfortable the house really was. And so I think that's the other piece of it, right? Is like, despite other people's uncomfortability, I'm the one living in the house. So at the end of the day, am I going to keep building the house based on people who aren't going to live in it? Or do I want to make it comfortable for me? What now? What does this mean? What does any of this mean that I just unloaded? It means that I'm done with the hustle and the hurry of trying to get to a goal or get to an expectation of where I should be in my life or who I should be in my life. I'm done trying to make myself move faster or do the things that I think I should be doing in order to prove myself to others, in order to look good. I'm done trying to morph myself to fit into roles and holes that weren't made for me anymore. I'm instead much more interested in building a meticulously crafted house, custom made to me and who I am. I don't know if this house metaphor makes sense, but I hope it does. And something that I really want to stress is that it's a practice. It's not like, I figured it out, I know what I'm doing. Like, it is an excruciatingly tiring practice examining why I'm making decisions I'm making and if they actually are things that I want to live up to. It's bittersweet. There's this sadness and pain and relief and hope and excitement all mixed together. But I'm trying my best to now say, instead of this is uncomfortable or this is weird or I don't know what to do, to instead just say, this is new. Because it's new. It allows for more openness and less comparison in my life. And I think instead of setting goals or having dreams anymore, I'm experimenting with having wants. Linguistically, goals and dreams have such a high pedestal of expectation just embedded within them. Well, when you don't achieve your goals or your dreams, society tells you you're a failure. And so being able to instead say, I want to run a theater versus I have a goal or a dream of running a theater, not only allows space and openness for that to change, but it also then takes the pressure off it. I give myself permission to change and to grow and fail. And I give myself permission to not know and to not have the answers and to build my house more slowly, right? Like, I don't have an innate sense of failure if my wants change. And it is such a relief to be able to let go in that way. So let's just want things instead. Yeah. Give up your dreams. Screw your goals. Want things.